Joker 2 has left many fans feeling betrayed. The dark, gritty tone of the original seems to have vanished, replaced by musical numbers and fantastical sequences. But could the three-act structure of the film offer a solution to this tonal whiplash? Welcome, Hero Junkies! The three-act structure is a classic storytelling tool used by many films, and Joker Folie Deux is no exception. By breaking down the movie into three distinct parts, we can better understand the method behind the madness. So let's put on our detective hats and see if we can crack the case of Joker 2's divisive reception. Act 1 of Joker Folie Deux opens with an unexpected twist, a cartoon that sets the stage for Arthur Fleck's internal struggle. This animated sequence, titled My Shadow and Me, isn't just a quirky addition, it's a symbolic representation of the battle raging within our protagonist. The cartoon depicts Arthur fighting against a shadow that's trying to replace him, effectively framing the narrative around the themes of duality and accountability. This clever use of animation serves a dual purpose. First, it introduces the idea that Arthur isn't solely responsible for his actions, raising questions about the nature of identity and how society perceives individuals with mental health issues. Secondly, it sets up the film's exploration of Arthur's alter ego, the Joker, and how this persona has come to dominate his life. After we transition from the cartoon to the live-action portion of the film, we're introduced to a very different Arthur Fleck from the one we left at the end of the first movie. He's described as a morose skeleton of his former self, lifeless and defeated in his new home at Arkham Asylum. This stark contrast to the chaotic and energized Joker we saw previously is our first hint at the tonal shift of this sequel. One of the most intriguing elements of Act 1 is the recurring motif of Arthur's cigarette. This seemingly insignificant prop actually carries a lot of weight throughout the film. The cigarette serves as a symbol of Arthur's internal conflict, a physical representation of his darker impulses and his struggle with addiction and self-destruction. It's a clever visual cue that reminds us of the complexity of Arthur's character, even as the film takes on a lighter tone. Speaking of tone, Act 1 of Joker 2 marks a significant departure from its predecessor. While the first film was relentlessly dark and gritty, this sequel introduces unexpected moments of levity. We see this in Arthur's interactions during music therapy and in the introduction of Lady Gaga's character, Lee Quinzel. This juxtaposition of dark themes with lighthearted moments creates a unique dynamic that might catch some viewers off guard. The shift in tone is perhaps most evident in the musical sequences that begin to appear in Act 1. These whimsical interludes serve as a means for Arthur to express his emotions and desires, but they also introduce a level of absurdity that stands in stark contrast to the serious tone of the first film. It's a bold choice by the filmmakers, and one that's likely to divide audiences. This tonal balancing act is one of the most challenging aspects of Joker 2. On one hand, the film attempts to maintain the psychological depth and social commentary that made the original so impactful. On the other, it introduces elements of fantasy and musical theater that could potentially undermine the seriousness of Arthur's struggle. It's a risky move, and whether it pays off will largely depend on individual viewers' expectations and preferences. As Act 1 progresses, we see Arthur navigating his new environment in Arkham, grappling with his identity, and beginning to form a connection with Lee Quinzel. The lighter tone and musical elements might seem at odds with the dark subject matter, but they also serve to highlight the surreal nature of Arthur's world and his increasingly fragile grip on reality. Act 2 introduces a bold new element that has left many fans just scratching their heads: musical numbers. This dramatic shift in tone from the first film has sparked heated debates amongst viewers. Some see it as a refreshing twist, while others feel it undermines the psychological depth established in the original. The musical sequences in Joker 2 serve a unique purpose. They're not just random song and dance routines thrown in for entertainment value. Instead, they represent shared fantasies between Arthur Fleck and Lee Quinzel, better known as Harley Quinn. These musical moments allow the characters to express their inner turmoil and desires through performance, creating a surreal landscape where reality and fantasy blur, and this is exactly where Lee likes them. However, this artistic choice hasn't been without its critics. Many fans and reviewers have pointed out that the lighthearted score and musical numbers often feel at odds with Arthur's darker psychological struggles. One critic noted, quote, "The musical numbers distract from the story. Rather than adding emotional depth, they seem out of place and don't add anything meaningful to the plot or the characters." This whiplash is particularly noticeable when compared to the relentlessly dark atmosphere of the first Joker film. While the original dove deep into Arthur's fractured psyche and the harsh realities of Gotham City, Joker 2 seems to dance around these themes with a more whimsical approach. This shift made fans feel disconnected from Arthur's journey, the deep journey they truly wanted to see instead. Despite the criticism, it's worth considering how these musical elements contribute to the film's narrative. The contrast between the upbeat musical numbers and Arthur's internal struggle creates a palpable tension. The director Todd Phillips made this intentional, highlighting the disconnect between Arthur's fantasy world and his harsh reality in Arkham Asylum. The relationship between Arthur and Lee Quinzel adds another layer of complexity to this act. Their connection, which plays out both in reality and through musical fantasies, complicates Arthur's already fragile sense of identity. Lee's idolization of the Joker persona creates a push-pull dynamic where Arthur struggles between embracing his alter ego and maintaining his own identity. Lee continues to encourage Arthur to embrace Joker more and more so they can live in this fantasy world together. This internal conflict is further emphasized by the film's attempts to blend multiple genres. Joker 2 tries to be a prison drama, a courtroom thriller, and a musical all at once. While ambitious, this approach has led to what some critics describe as a disjointed narrative that fails to fully engage with any one genre effectively. The musical numbers, featuring classic songs from the Great American Songbook and other eras, allow for creative expressions of the characters' emotions. However, they've also been criticized for interrupting the flow of the story and detracting from the emotional weight of Arthur's character arc. This balancing act between fantasy and reality, lightness and darkness, creates a unique viewing experience that's likely to divide audiences. As Act 2 progresses, the tension builds not just through traditional narrative means, but through the increasingly frequent and intensity of these musical sequences. The line between reality and fantasy becomes increasingly blurred, mirroring Arthur's own mental state. This approach, while controversial, offers a unique perspective on the character's descent into madness. As Act 2 progresses, we're thrust into a surprising new setting, the courtroom. This shift from musical fantasy to legal reality creates a jarring contrast that mirrors Arthur's own internal struggle. The trial becomes a battleground not just for Arthur's freedom, but for his very identity. His lawyer presents a defense that's as audacious as it is controversial. They argue that the Joker persona, not Arthur Fleck, is responsible for the crimes committed. This legal strategy raises fascinating questions about accountability and the nature of identity. Can a person truly separate themselves from their actions by claiming an alternative personality was in control? The courtroom scenes serve as a critical narrative device, complicating Arthur's character development in unexpected ways. We see him grappling with the consequences of his actions while simultaneously trying to distance himself from them. This internal conflict is reflected in the external drama of the trial, creating a tension that keeps viewers on edge. However, some critics have noted that these courtroom sequences fall short of their potential. One reviewer commented, quote, "The trial scenes feel underwhelming, lacking the tension you'd expect from a high-stakes legal drama. Instead of delving deep into the psychological and legal implications, they often feel like a rehash of events we've already seen." Despite these criticisms, the trial does raise intriguing philosophical questions about mental health and societal perceptions of violence. Arthur's insanity defense forces both the characters in the film and the audience to confront uncomfortable truths about how we view and treat individuals with mental illness. The courtroom drama also serves as a backdrop for Arthur's emotional journey and his evolving relationship with Lee Quinzel. As he fights to prove he's not the Joker, we see Arthur struggling with his own sense of self. Does he truly believe he's innocent, or is this all part of a larger performance? The legal proceedings also force Arthur to confront how others perceive his past actions. We see glimpses of how Gotham citizens, the justice system, and even Arthur himself interpret the events of the first film. This retrospective view adds layers of complexity to Arthur's character and the world he inhabits. It seems as though Arthur felt, since he let Gary Puddles live, that he should be understanding and not testify against him. Arthur's face and body language seems confused by his daily fear. While Arthur battles his demons in court, a new player enters the game. Lady Gaga's portrayal of Harley Quinn was one of the most anticipated aspects of the film. Her performance has been described as electric, bringing a new energy to the story and showcasing strong chemistry with Arthur. In one of her most revealing lines, Lee states, quote, "After seeing him kill a guy on national television, I didn't feel so alone anymore." This chilling admission highlights the twisted nature of their relationship and sets the stage for their shared descent into madness. As a fan, I thought it was all uphill from there. However, despite the hype surrounding Gaga's casting, Harley Quinn's presence in the film has been a point of contention amongst fans and critics alike. One of the main issues is the character's limited screen time. Despite being heavily featured in the marketing, Harley only appears for about half an hour in the film's 138-minute runtime. This underutilization has left many viewers feeling frustrated and questioning the character's purpose in the overall narrative. She came in at different points of the trial to encourage the Joker to be around, not Arthur. She would make him feel like he was not crazy at random moments, first lying about their shared family trauma and how she got into Arkham, then by paying her way into his cell for a quickie, and later on lying to him about being pregnant, where he was actually excited until she expressed her disappointment in him when he denied being Joker in court. The film attempts to explore the complex dynamics between Arthur and Harley, but much of their interaction is confined to musical numbers. One of my favorites was them pretending to escape Arkham while climbing on the fence for everyone to see. While these sequences are visually striking and showcase the actor's talents, some critics argue that they detract from the depth of character development. The musical format, while innovative, may have inadvertently reduced the opportunity for more nuanced exploration of Harley's character and her influence on Arthur's journey. When Gaga is given the chance to fully embody Harley's devious and alluring nature, her performance shines. These moments offer glimpses of what could have been a more substantial and impactful role. The film seems to miss opportunities to delve deeper into her complexities, leaving her character feeling somewhat underdeveloped compared to the rich portrayal of Arthur in the first film. The lack of a robust character arc for Harley Quinn also impacts the film's narrative structure. In traditional Joker-Harley storylines, their relationship is often a catalyst for significant character development and plot progression. However, Harley's role in Arthur's transformation feels less defined. This has led to some viewers to question whether her character was necessary for the story being told or if she was introduced primarily for star power and marketing purposes. Interestingly, the limited exploration of Harley's character has fueled speculation about a potential spin-off. Some fans and industry insiders have suggested that Lady Gaga's Harley Quinn could headline her own film, allowing for a deeper dive into her backstory and motivations. While this remains purely speculative, it speaks to the audience's desire to see more of this incarnation of the character. Despite these criticisms, it's worth noting that the limited screen time for Harley Quinn doesn't necessarily diminish the impact of Lady Gaga's performance. In the scenes where she does appear, Gaga brings a manic energy and unpredictability that complements Phoenix's more introspective portrayal of Arthur. Their on-screen chemistry is palpable, making their shared musical fantasies some of the most memorable moments in film. Act 3 takes an unexpected turn that has left many viewers feeling confused and disappointed. The film's conclusion attempts to resolve the conflict set up in the previous acts, but does so in a way that subverts expectations and challenges our understanding of Arthur Fleck's character arc. The most shocking moment comes when Arthur is stabbed by another inmate, who then carves a smile into his face. This violent act suggests the emergence of a new Joker, potentially setting up a legacy that extends beyond Arthur himself. It's a bold choice that has divided audiences and critics alike. One of the most significant aspects of the ending is Arthur's rejection of the Joker persona. After spending much of the film struggling with his identity, he ultimately accepts his guilt and denounces the character that brought him notoriety. This decision leads to a death sentence and alienates him from Lee Quinzel, who had idolized the Joker persona. The film's conclusion serves as a commentary on the allure of the Joker character itself. By having Arthur reject the Joker identity, the filmmakers are making a statement about how society values the icon more than the human behind it. It's a meta commentary on fan culture and our fascination with anti-heroes. However, this artistic choice hasn't sat well with many viewers. The ending has been described as unfulfilling, as it reverts Arthur's character back to a state of despair. This regression undermines the character developments we've seen throughout the film and the previous installment. It's a stark reminder that embracing the Joker persona ultimately leads to emptiness and isolation. Critics have pointed out that the film's final act feels disconnected from the musical fantasy elements that dominated early scenes. The tonal shift is jarring, and some argue that it fails to effectively tie together the various threads of the narrative. The absence of musical numbers in the climax further emphasizes this disconnect, leaving some viewers feeling like the film's unique selling point was abandoned when it mattered the most. The ending also raises questions about the future of the Joker franchise. With Arthur's apparent death, it seems that Todd Phillips might be closing the door on a potential third installment. This has led to speculation about the identity of Arthur's attacker, with some fans theorizing he could be a young version of Heath Ledger's Joker. While this is purely conjecture, it speaks to the audience's desire for continuity and connection within the broader Batman universe. Despite the controversial nature of its ending, it's worth considering the filmmaker's intentions. By subverting expectations and delivering an ending that many find unsatisfying, Phillips and his team may be making a statement about the nature of storytelling itself. They're challenging the audience to confront their own expectations and questioning why we demand certain narrative resolutions from our anti-heroes. The film's reception has been overwhelmingly negative, with a low Rotten Tomatoes score and audience reactions indicating widespread disappointment. This response suggests that the ending, while perhaps intellectually interesting, failed to resonate emotionally with many viewers. It's a reminder of the delicate balance filmmakers must strike between artistic vision and audience satisfaction, especially when dealing with beloved characters like the Joker. While negative reviews are one thing, the real shocker lies in the film's performance where it matters most, with paying audiences. Joker 2's reception has been nothing short of disastrous. The film currently holds a meager 33% rating on Rotten Tomatoes, with both critics and audiences seemingly in agreement about its shortcomings. This is a far cry from the critical acclaim and audience adoration that the original Joker enjoyed. It's a stark reminder of how quickly fortunes can change in Hollywood, especially when taking bold creative risks with established characters. But the true measure of a film's success often lies in its box office performance. And here's where the Joker 2 really stumbles. The movie opened to an estimated $47 million, a figure that might sound impressive until you consider its massive $200 million budget. For a sequel to a film that was both a critical darling and a box office powerhouse, this performance is nothing short of disappointing. It's a clear indication that the musical direction and tonal shift didn't resonate with the majority of moviegoers who were expecting something more in line with the original. Perhaps the most damning piece of evidence regarding Joker 2's reception is its cinema score. The film received a D rating, making it the first comic book movie to ever score so low on this audience reaction metric. This is particularly significant because Cinema Score surveys audiences immediately after they've watched the film, capturing their gut reactions. A D score suggests that even those who were interested enough to see the movie on opening weekend left the theater feeling deeply unsatisfied. The audience's disappointment has manifested in a wave of social media reactions, with fans creating memes and jokes that ridicule the film's musical elements and overall execution. One particularly scathing meme states, "Joaquin Phoenix was not the Joker, the real Joker was me who decided to watch this." This sentiment seems to be echoed across various platforms, with many viewers expressing regret over their decision to see the film. So what went wrong? The three-act structure we've explored in previous sections was meant to provide a framework for Arthur's journey, balancing the darker themes of the original with the new musical elements. However, it seems that this balancing act ultimately failed to resonate with audiences. The tonal shift from the gritty realism of the first film to the fantastical musical numbers of the sequel was too jarring for many viewers. Critics have noted that while the performances of Joaquin Phoenix and Lady Gaga were strong, they couldn't save the film from its perceived narrative flaws and lack of direction. The musical numbers, which were intended to add depth to Arthur's emotional journey, were often seen as distractions that took away from the psychological exploration that made the first film so compelling. It's worth noting that some critics have described the movie as a derivative, less sophisticated rehash of the first film. This suggests that even with the addition of musical elements and new characters, the sequel failed to capture what made the original resonate with audiences. The film's ambitious attempt to reinvent itself may have ultimately alienated both fans of the original and newcomers alike. The poor reception and box office performance of Joker 2 raised questions about the future of the franchise. With such a negative response, it seems unlikely that we'll see a Joker 3 anytime soon. This could mark the end of Arthur Fleck's story, at least in its current incarnation. For more movie reviews, don't forget to like and subscribe.